Distractions are a very normal part of our lives, but it is our job to teach our dogs how to take those distractions in and actually mentally process them. Pattern games can be really helpful to guide our dogs through situations because they are very predictable and our dogs pick up on them really well. If we can give them a predictable pattern to actually focus on in a scenario that makes them a little bit worried or excited, it brings them back to their center. It is going to help them process that situation a little bit easier and in a more calm way. This pattern game specifically is called the up-down game. You'll see exactly why here in a few minutes, but it is part of Leslie McDevitt's Controlled Unleashed. This is a series of different books. Specifically where you can find this pattern game is in her Reactive to Relaxed book. I will drop a link down in the description below. I have these books on my Amazon storefront if you want to take a look at them. There's a lot of really awesome pattern games in here that I implement quite frequently with my own dogs, as well as different client dogs. It can be really helpful for a variety of different things throughout your dog's life, so I really recommend checking that out. The really nice thing about these pattern type games is it's not rocket science. They become very easy to teach. It does not take very long for your dog to actually learn that pattern that you were teaching them, and then you can right away go implement it into real day-to-day life with your dog and work up the distraction level to whatever degree you are working on in your specific context. And what I'm going to talk about in this video specifically, you can use this for something as simple as your dog is distracted by a leaf blowing in the wind, all the way up to my dog has a significant fear of strangers. You can implement this pattern game and a bunch of her other pattern games as well into both contexts. To start to teach this one, what you're going to need is a clicker, whatever treats you prefer. I am using in this video my raw alternative in the lamb flavor. This is just an air-dried food that I use in a lot of my videos, and your dog. So what I'm going to do here in a moment is I'm going to place a treat on the ground in front of Wrigley. I'm going to demonstrate this when she's in a down and also when she's standing up here in a moment too. Ultimately, this game is really going to be played when she's standing, so that's where I want most of my practice taking place. But for the sake of explaining, I'm going to place the treat down on the ground in front of her, allow her to eat it, and when she lifts her head up is when I'm clicking, and then I'm replacing that treat on the ground. Good job. So I am clicking for her lifting her head up. That is the entire object of this game. It is what she is being reinforced for. Good girl. Awesome. We had a little bit of a pause there. Wrigley has some other known behaviors when she's in a down on the ground like this, so if your dog has that as well, go ahead and just wait them out for a couple of seconds and see if they choose to lift their head on their own. If they don't, you can prompt it with a little kissy noise or some sort of attention getter and then click whenever they lift their head up in response to that attention getter. So now we're going to practice standing with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reinforce Wrigley a couple of times just for standing in front of me like this. If you have a dog that automatically sits, it really doesn't matter what position they are in. They can be in a sit to play this game. I'll demonstrate it in a few different ways. They're just ultimately going to stand up in the very end. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to place a treat on the ground, wait for her to eat it, and click when she lifts her head up. Nice job. And I'm being very careful as well to actually place the treat in front of her instead of tossing the treat or dropping it from a great height. If I drop it from a great height, it bounced all the way over there, right? So we want to be really careful about where we're actually placing our treats so that our dogs are set up to succeed. Good job. Nice, all done. Good job. Lay down. Okay, So when I finished with that, so the game didn't continue to go on while I was trying to stop and just talk to the camera for a moment. I said Wrigley's all done cue. It basically means we're done with doing what we just did. I want you to stop, and then I asked her to lie down. That is a good way to transition out of this game if you were playing it, is some sort of all done or that's all signal to your dog, meaning you can stop doing the head lifting thing. I'm not going to reinforce for it anymore. Once your dog has gotten some practice and repetition with you place the treat down, they eat it, you click when they lift their head up. The act that we are clicking for and we are looking for in that initial practice is our dogs lifting their heads up. I didn't mention anything about eye contact or giving you direct focus or any other sort of criteria that we are placing in. All we're looking for initially is your dog just lifting their head up. I really like to look for that step just initially off the bat because it helps for distractions later on. When you place a distraction into this, it may be hard for your dog to offer you direct focus or direct eye contact for a sustained period of time because there's a competing distraction in play. So we want to introduce that simple head lift at first so we can go back to it later on. But once your dog gets that, and they'll get it pretty quickly whenever you're first practicing this, then we really want to get that eye contact and that focus when your dog lifts their head up and actually looks at you. That's our next criteria. So I'm going to demonstrate this on the ground here with Wrigley again, and then I will stand as well. It's going to look very similar because when you're in a space like we are here with no other competing distractions other than there's a fly buzzing around the room here, it's going to be very easy. Your dog is going to offer you eye contact because there's nothing else that's super interesting to look at. So this is why I really recommend practicing this initially in a space that your dog is going to be basically focused on you and you don't have competing distractions around. You're going to play this the same way you did before. So you're going to place a treat on the ground, they eat it, and you're waiting this time for them to not only lift their head up, but offer you eye contact. Now here, Wrigley's looking at my hand that contains the treats first. She's pretty experienced with eye contact, so whenever I'm waiting her out, she knows I want her to look at my face. This is why I actually recommend practicing this while you're standing, because while you're standing, your hand is going to be a lot farther away from your dog's nose. Here it's pretty close to Wrigley's nose. And what you can also do is place your hands behind your back. Okay, so I can place the treat down, remove my hands, and wait for her to make eye contact with me. It just can be a little bit less distracting this way. And she's offering me the laziest eye contact. Oh, are we tired? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to show you this standing up as well. All done. Good girl. Okay, I'm just going to reinforce her for standing up. So here, again, I'm going to place the treat on the ground. Good. And I'm removing my hands so that they are not a distraction behind my back, and I'm getting much faster eye contact this way. Good. A little bit of a bounce there. That's all right. Good. So again, if you're not getting this right away, this fast eye contact, you can wait your dog out, or you can give some sort of little attention getter kissy noise type of thing. Okay, and then click and feed. Good job. So with the eye contact piece, you can do lots of repetitions of that. We're really looking again for your dog to lift their head up and offer you direct eye contact. It does not have to be for a lengthy period of time, but I want you to think about the situation you're going to eventually be asking for it in if there is a distraction present. So whenever our dogs are outside and there's something going on behind them or around you, your dog is going to have a harder time maintaining eye contact with you. it's going to be harder for them to hold that focus when there's something exciting going on behind them. So I would recommend if you can get 1 or 2 seconds of eye contact at home, that'll buy you a glance out in the real world whenever there's a distraction going on. So you don't need to work up to lengthy amounts of eye contact. That can really be intimidating for some dogs as well. We're really going for just quick, nice job for looking at me, and then reinforcing with food on the floor again. Now you can stop here with this game. If you just did this, click for your dog lifting their head up, and then you move on and reinforce as well for eye contact. That is the game in its entirety. But I do like to take this one step further, especially if we're talking about distractions and when you're working with this outside. You may need to deliver treats quickly and drop them from a distance up ahead. That was confusing to you, I'm sorry. But when you saw me do that, right, I bounced the treat over there. I want my dogs to also have an understanding with this game that if the treat goes that way, I still want them to go get that treat and then look back over at me. This is really helpful when it comes to distractions as well, because your dog, you almost kind of have this invisible tether with them. They can move a little bit away from you, but still be able to reorient onto you again. So we're basically adding a little bit of movement into it. So I'm going to show you what that looks like with Wrigley right now. We're going to stand up to play this game so she doesn't have to keep getting up and down from her down currently. All done. Okay. So again, you just have your dog in front of you. The difference that I'm going to do with this one is instead of placing the treat directly in front of Wrigley, I'm going to start to place it off to the side a little, just by a little bit. So I'm going to place one here. She gets it. Same game, right? I'm clicking for her lifting her head up and looking at me. I'm going to place one here. Good. And as we're talking about patterns, right, in this game, dogs are very good at picking up on patterns. So you can start with kind of alternating sides, just like I'm doing here. And your dog will pick up on that pattern very quickly. And I'm still being careful at this point not to toss the treat too far, just to make sure I get that reorientation back onto me. This part is especially important to not have very many distractions around you so that your dog doesn't go away from you to eat the treat and then immediately get distracted. When we're teaching it, we really want to make sure, good girl, that we're getting that refocus right away. Nice. Good. Okay, sit. Good job. And I'm going to ask her again for a behavior right here just so I can stop the game. Good job. Okay, so now that I did that kind of back and forth bouncy treat game, what I'm going to do is start to actually toss it in random directions a little bit more. And again, I'm looking for the same criteria. She eats the treat and then returns to me, lifts her head up, and gives me eye contact, kind of like she's doing right now. So we're going to see how she does with this next step. So here, I'm just going to take a treat, toss it a little farther out. Good, and I'm waiting for her again to bring her head back to me and offer eye contact. Good. Awesome. And the treat does kind of bounce unpredictably on this mat that I have. This would be great to play on a carpeted or soft surface. Good job. So the treat doesn't go as crazy. Nice job. Awesome. Good girl. Good. Woo! All the way to you guys. Good job. And I don't need her to necessarily come back to me whenever she is looking at me. I'm really going for her lifting her head and looking, right? But it also, when she's far away from me, oh, sorry, we'll get that one later. Good job. When she's farther away from me, it actually can be to my advantage to have her come a bit closer to me to reorient. Again, with those distractions in mind. Nice job. Awesome. Can you sit? Good girl. I really recommend practicing this one in the house where your dog is not that distracted for at least 3 or 4 training sessions, and you're kind of getting what Wrigley's giving me right now, just direct eye contact. She understands the purpose of the game and what she's being reinforced for. You will know if your dog is getting it because they will come back and lift their head and offer you direct eye contact every single time. You want to get as close to 100% consistency with this before taking it outside. That's really important because it's a pattern type game. It's crucial that our dogs actually understand the pattern before we try to implement it out in real life. So one of the ways I really like to use this game, and you're going to see this in a clip here in a moment, is I get to the park with Wrigley and she has some anxieties about seeing other dogs. I've talked about this before on my channel. I play a bunch of different games with her to help guide her through other dog situations. But this pattern game, this up-down game specifically, I really like for when we first get out of the car and there is a dog in the immediate area around us. I want her to be able to see the dog, but I'm going to help her work through her emotions about just getting to the park, which is her favorite part of the day. It's very exciting to her. The last thing that I want is for her to jump out of the car. She gets so excited about being at the park and then she sees a dog and she's already in this excited state. She's not going to be able to process that scenario in a nice calm way. So insert the up-down game. She's going to hop out of the car. I'm going to allow her to see the dog and I'm going to use this pattern structure to, one, help her process that situation, but two, I'm also going to utilize it as a key to myself, a guide to how Wrigley is feeling about this. When she's playing the up-down game, whenever she lifts her head back up, I am evaluating. I am seeing, is she lifting her head up and is she looking straight at me? Or is she lifting her head up and she's immediately turning to look at the dog? If I teach this pattern structure and she knows this pattern structure ahead of time, I can use it as a guide to see how she's feeling about it because as we saw, she knows the game. She lifts her head up, she looks directly at me. 100% of the time. It's pretty clear that she knows the game. So I can use that in a situation where she lifts her head up and does not look at me, she turns and looks away from me. That's a very clear indicator to me that whatever that thing is that she's looking at, in this case another dog, it is still a huge distraction for her. She is not ready to move forwards. The really nice thing about the structure and simplicity of this game is all she needs to do is eat food, right? I place food down and if she eats it, great. If she doesn't, that's a problem that we need to evaluate. Or next step past that, she doesn't look at me. That's another problem that we need to evaluate. So I can use that context to say, okay, are we ready to move forwards with the walk? Or do we need to continue to do this pattern until I have more of your focus, right? So I can repeat this pattern and I choose to repeat this pattern until I can place the treat on the ground and she reliably is looking back up at me every single time instead of away from me. That's my indicator. If I get at least 5 repetitions of her eating the treat, lifting her head up, and she looks straight back at me again, that's my indicator that she's good to go and we're going to proceed with the walk. If this fell apart, if I placed the treat on the ground, she lifted her head up, she got startled by something, and I could not regain her focus, that is an indicator to me that I need to change the context. I need to change the environment around us to make it a whole lot easier. Distance. You're going to get out of that situation. Add some distance. I could put her back in the car and wait until that distraction moves a little bit further away and then try again. So when you start to add distractions to this, it's really important that we keep the integrity of the game. And the game is what is going to tell you how distracted your dog actually is. If your dog is able to replicate and continue to lift their head up after you place the treat on the ground and look straight at you, you're good. You're good to go. That distraction is a good distance away. It may even be to the point where your dog doesn't even notice it. It's so far away and you can actually move closer to the distraction. We don't necessarily want to taunt your dogs into looking away from you constantly, but we want them to be able to notice the distraction and then be able to return to the game. That is ideally what we are looking for. So if you are too close, your dog, one, may not be able to eat the food on the ground. That's a good good indication. If they're not even starting the game by eating the treat, you are too close, more than likely. And if you are getting a dog that eats the treat, lifts their head up, and then immediately are disorienting from you, you also are likely too close to the distraction. So those are two really clear indicators that you want to add some distance, move farther away from the thing that you are working around, and try the pattern again. Now, if you are getting your dog lifts their head up, they notice the distraction happening, and then on their own reorient their attention back to you, that's great. That is exactly what we were looking for in the context of this game, and utilizing it for helping our dogs process distractions. They notice it and then they return to the game. They may notice it again, but the return to the game is the piece that we are looking for. This game is really intended as kind of a foundation level step with harder distractions that your dog either gets really overly excited about or really nervous about whenever they are in the presence of these things at a close proximity. So we want to start with a distance. You want to get farther away from the distraction, whatever it may be, but also allow your dog to see it. So you may start the game by clicking the moment your dog actually sees the distraction and then coming back and placing the treat in front of them and in the structure that we saw in this video. You may start with that, and then you go into evaluating, am I too close? Do I need more distance? How is my dog even feeling about this game in this context with this distraction? So there's a lot of different checkpoints that you're going to do to evaluate how your dog is doing. The object of this game is meant to be as a helpful teaching aid, and that you actually advance from and move on from at a certain point. So for example, I would never play this game with Wrigley with a bird flying by her. She's not distracted by it. She's not excited by it. She's not worried about it. She doesn't need help in that moment. If a bird is flying by, I can very easily grab her attention if I want it, but she just continues to walk along nicely, right? So with things that are not very distracting to your dogs at all, they may be good places to start whenever you're first working on this, in actually teaching your dog the game out and about with the things that your dog is not distracted by, and then working your way up to the harder level distractions. But once your dog knows it and you're putting this into practice on your everyday walks, I would never play this game with a bird flying by. Wrigley doesn't need it, right? I can ask for a more complex behavior. I can ask her to heel with me. I can ask her to sit or lie down and do a downstay. I can ask for bigger behaviors because it's not a distraction for her. So for the things that are very distracting to your dog, this is a foundation level game so that you can start here and teach your dog how to process that information and actually teach them how to focus on you in the presence of that distraction. And then once they have it, you ditch the game and you ask for something bigger, right? And you might say, hey, can you play this game with me while we're moving, right? You place the treat on the ground while you're walking with your dog and you're asking them to look back up at you. You might ask for a sit, you might ask for a nose touch, you might ask for a heel in that situation, whatever it may be that is actually your end goal, you move on to those things. This is just that foundation level to see, can you refocus onto me? And if not, I'm going to help you with this pattern, with this structure, to be able to focus on me a little bit easier. I do have many other videos on this topic as well that talks about other behaviors that you can teach, more advanced behaviors as well that you can move on to. So definitely check those out. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and we'll see you in another video.